This conference will now be recorded.
This is November 1st, and this is the Advanced Recurrent Support Group at ANCAN. We want to thank Pfizer and Bayer for their support to help make this group possible. We don't have any new members tonight, am I right? Nobody new slipped in when I wasn't looking. So we're gonna go right to the regular discussion then. So let's start with Joel.
Okay, just a quick update. I started darolutamide this past Saturday, 4 pills a day. But on Friday, I took a PSMA. A PSA, and my PSA had gone down from 14 days before was 3.1, 14 days before, and on last Friday it was 1.9. Um, so, oh no, I'm sorry, I'm losing it here. 1.5, Rick, 1.5. So, Dr. E is going to meet with me on the 15th, but I got a call today that somebody wanted to meet from Houston Methodist on the 8th. So I haven't solved that issue yet because I just got home. So anyway, that's it. Everything's going in the right direction, and I'm feeling fine. No side effects.
Excellent. So you're
Is
on
this mono?
Daro. You're on
Go ahead,
Daro plus what, Joel?
Orgovix.
Orgovix. Okay.
Yeah, I started Orgovix on 20 September, and that's brought my PSA down from 13.8 down to 1.5.
Looking good. And we expect Orgovix to act pretty fast, right? Look at your testosterone.
And I took a baseline before the darolutamide, so darolutamide hopefully will get rid of the rest of it.
What was your testosterone before you started Orgovix?
353, and testosterone is now less than 10.
Okay, that's Orgovix, right?
Yeah.
Good. Good. And you feel good. Most of us have tolerated darolutamide pretty well, so we hope you will too.
The doctor and I have discussed this when I was there. We basically discussed the macro stuff. We didn't discuss the details, but by the prescription she's given me, she's going to be she's putting me on a short course of Orgovix for 6 months, and then the darolutamide will be for a full year and maybe beyond.
Now that's interesting. So you'll be on darolutamide alone for the last half of the year.
Correct. I'm going to verify that with her when I meet with her telemedicine wise. But yes, that's what I think is happening.
Okay. Yeah, we've got some people here who have done that, including Len. Anybody have any thoughts for Joel? Comments?
Yeah, Joel, excuse me. Why did they want to have you stop Orgovix and just continue on darolutamide alone?
I do not know the answer to that question, so I haven't even discussed that with her. She's the one who gave me a 6-month prescription for Orgovix and a 1-year prescription for darolutamide. So that's an assumption on my part, just based on the prescriptions.
Okay.
I bet you're going to get another 6 months of Orgovix after the first 6 months. We'll see.
It'll probably depend on where his PSA is.
Yeah.
Joe, this is Julian. I'm on Orgovix and the darolutamide too, and both my PSA and testosterone are in the dirt. So, but I'll be coming off of it in about February, March timeframe. But I have a virtual call with Dr. E on the 16th, so I'm not sure why they're moving your appointment around.
Yeah, I don't know either. I have to verify that tomorrow, but I have no idea what's going on right now. But 15 has been around, been playing for the last 30 days or so.
Yeah, they'll probably move mine too if they move yours.
Maybe so. Yeah.
She's been doing she's been doing some juggling. I'm supposed to be down there this week, or no, last week, and she put me off till the 10th.
Oh.
So, can I ask is anybody getting Orgovyx and darolutamide on Medicare, or are you getting it through the VA?
So far, I'm getting it through TRICARE and both through TRICARE. Now, TRICARE, I just figured that out. It has a specialty pharmacy, and they're called Accredo. And so I'm getting the darolutamide from Accredo and the Orgovyx from Express Scripts. I'm sorry, I misstated that. Express Scripts has a specialty pharmacy called Accredo, and Accredo is shipping me darolutamide, and Express Scripts is giving me the Orgovyx.
Okay.
So, Julian, where are you getting yours? Are you getting yours through Medicare or VA? Because my doc here said he said I'm having a hard time getting it covered.
Yeah, well, mine is covered through my Medicare, but I'm getting them free from Orgovyx and Bayer.
So how did you manage that?
Yeah.
How did the free come about?
Oh, because of the number of people in my household. I was actually over the limit, and then I told them, I said, well, you know, my daughter and her 3 kids live with us, and I sent them the information. They turned around and said, oh, you covered. Well, they're sending it to me.
All I know about it.
Go ahead.
All I know is that you're supposed to get the first month of Orgovyx and darolutamide for free, but they didn't let me have that yet.
Huh.
Is anybody getting it through Medicare? Because I've got the meeting with Medicare to decide whether I switch insurances or not. I'm just wondering if I need to, or it's going to put me in the donut hole. I'm already through we're in and out of the donut hole with my wife already.
So Norm, that's a loaded question because it depends on what Medicare supplementary policy you get.
Yeah,
So
I got Medicare Advantage. Yeah.
Okay, so on your Medicare Advantage, then you're just going to have that donut hole that you're going to have to deal with, and when you go through it, you won't have any expenses. But the Medicare Advantage donut hole changes from policy to policy. If you were on a Plan D, it would depend on the Plan D that you selected. So nobody could answer, does Medicare cover it? It's does Medicare cover it with this supplementary or this Advantage plan or this D plan? Is the question.
I'll just have to talk to them.
Now,
Okay.
if you keep pursuing it through the VA, which I recommend you do, once you've gotten up to the level of an oncologist and you get them to prescribe you the Orgovyx or the darolutamide or whatever it is, then you'll get it. At that point, you can stop getting it through Medicare and you'll get it for whatever the monthly charge is now. I know $11 a month, $12 a month. I don't know what it is, but that is the way to go with to be dual enrolled in the VA and with your whatever other provider you have or payer you have.
I got turned down by VA, and we make too much money. So.
Well, wait a minute. When you say you got turned down by the VA, maybe you got turned down for certain drugs, but I don't know. And this isn't my sphere. This isn't my area. And maybe we can talk about it, or you can talk about it with Joe offline. But I thought if you're a vet, you qualify. I mean, Joel, are you aware that there's any income restrictions at the VA? Oh, there are. Jim Marshall. Go ahead, Jim Marshall.
Yeah.
Yes, there is, provided that the thing he has is not service connected.
Right.
Ah, okay.
Thank you. Thanks for educating me, both of you.
After
This is
2000, the letter said after 2003, then they started going by what it is and how much money you make. So
this is
Okay.
Vic. I have a question for Joel. Joel, are you transitioning from a different drug to darolutamide, and are you still in the hormone sensitive? Are you in the hormone resistant stage now, or?
No, I had a prostatectomy 11 years ago, over 11 years ago. The only treatments I've had since is two treatments of SBRT, and now since my PSA started zooming up, they've put me on Orgovyx and darolutamide. But I haven't had any ADT at all for 11 years.
So in other words, he's still presumably hormone sensitive.
Yes, I am. Yes, yes, I am.
I'm on darolutamide and on Orgovyx. The VA wouldn't approve darolutamide; they would approve enzalutamide. So I went directly to Bayer, and they're sending me the darolutamide.
And how much are you
And
paying for it?
my doc is going to reapply to the VA at about the 6-month mark, and see if they will approve it at that time.
And when Bayer does that, they don't charge anything, right?
Correct.
That's how I got on it also.
So
Mhm.
how do you get, what do you need to, what do you have to tell Bayer to get on it?
They
Have a
send,
form. They have a form that you have to fill out and send in to them. And I'm not sure what the levels of criteria are, but I filled it out and got a call a couple weeks later, and they approved it and sent me the first bottle of pills. And I'm on my I've been on it since June. It replaced enzalutamide.
So guys, every one of these drug companies has some sort of patient assistance program. Now, it's a bit of a black box, and for each one has their own rules. And I've never really understood why they approve one person, they don't approve another person. I mean, Julian's point about the number of people in his household, that's a new one on me, but evidently that's a factor. But I encourage all of you, if you find you're paying too much for a drug, whether it's Orgovyx or a second line anti-androgen or even an LHRH, reach out to the patient assistance program with the manufacturer, and you may have some luck. As you can hear, a couple of our guys have had luck, but I don't know what the formula is. So Herb, if you want to get assistance for your darolutamide or Orgovyx or whatever it is, reach out to them now. We have a little bit of grease sometimes, but most of the time our advocacy person says they can't intervene, but it hasn't always happened that way. And sometimes they can pull some strings behind if we push them, or if we think somebody's being turned down unfairly, then we'll get involved. But just by going through us, we can't guarantee anything. But the first step is go to the website and go to the darolutamide Nubeqa website or whatever have you, and fill it out. Fill out the forms.
Kevin, you got some stuff going on. Want to tell us about it?
Yeah, hold on. Yes, just a little recap. I guess approximately a year ago, I had prostate cancer in 2015, radical prostatectomy, Gleason of 9. I was on my cancer has metastasized to my whole entire skeletal system, my femur, my ribs, sternum, skull. So it's throughout, my humerus. So it's throughout my body. That was about a year or so ago. About a year ago, last, I guess, January, I did go on docetaxel. I was in severe pain in December. I did go on docetaxel for 8 rounds every 3 weeks. And after the 8 rounds, Dr. Tagawa said that my fingers, I had tingling in my fingers and stuff. He said it could be permanent. So he decided to pull me off of the docetaxel. I had no problems until probably the summer, and then I was in severe pain. They gave me morphine pills. They've given me all different sort of opioids as well. So in during the summer, my femur and hip was acting up severely, so I ended up going on radiation. After 5 rounds of radiation, it was cleared up real quick. As a matter of fact, I commend them because I called them up on a Thursday night at 10:30. I emailed him, and he said, "Come on in the next day." He set me up with a radiologist that day, and within 24 hours, I was being radiated.
How
Um,
did
I
how
have,
did they aim that radiation given how many Mets you have?
I, beyond my
Yeah.
scope, I don't know. You know,
Okay.
I,
Okay.
I I must tell you, this whole thing is very complicated to me.
No kidding.
Obviously what they did was that they did take an MRI, they did, their scans, they isolated it, and then I went back in and they radiated some portion of the hip and my femur, which there's a lot of cancer in my femur,
Okay. Gotcha.
which we actually
Gotcha.
had that biopsied back in 2016, 17, and it didn't show cancer. But Tagawa always felt as though it was cancerous, and he was right. So I did that. Then afterwards, he was talking about targeted chemo, and that's when I came to the group. I was listening a lot more, and I was kind of like apprehensive. I've been on lutetium 177 Pluvicto a couple of times, and everybody was saying I should get on that. So I went up to see Petrolac over at Yale. So I have a lot of respect for both of these doctors. Well, sure enough, Petrolac said, sometimes that he considered it. I don't think that they considered it as great as the marketing is, behind Pluvicto. That's his point of view, as well as another doctor when I went to a prostate cancer seminar. So I was going to go on to this targeted chemo with Dr. Tagawa, and he's got about 25 patients throughout the United States on this trial, but I didn't qualify. My liver functions have gone up, and they were up to like 200. I've since reduced them, but my oxygen, the platelets went down to about 30 a couple of weeks ago. I've been finding it extremely difficult to walk and breathe at the same time. My PSA has been rising from, probably in June about 17, and then 3 weeks ago it was like 47. Today, after I had 1 round, I'm on chemo again, and I've had 1 round of the chemo, which was carbotaxol and the carboplatin. And today my PSA is down to 33. So I did go in today. I thought I would be getting my 2nd round of that chemo, and I didn't. I wasn't able to get it because my platelets were at 47, and he said I couldn't have it till next week. I do have palliative care. I'm on a fentanyl patch. Um, it's I'm on the ticking time bomb because it's metastasized through my bones and skeletal system. So I'm dealing with it. My family's dealing with it. I think my daughter was on the call, and she was very direct to him. She's basically said, "Well, what's the longevity?" And Dr. Tagawa said, "Well, It could be 2 months. If your oxygen is low and your platelets are low and your white blood cells, and you catch a disease, or it could be a couple of years. I'm not going to survive 10 years, but it's he's not God. So, although I did tell him I think he's God in his own mind, but that's besides the point.
That's the guy where you said.
Yeah. So I've got a good relationship with him. So it's like and and I like it. I like the care that I'm getting at Weill Cornell. Everybody's been very good to me, and I'm going through this process, but it's very scary. You ask certain direct questions. I don't personally. Sometimes I feel as though I don't want to wrap my life around prostate cancer. I want to start living more. I want to go on. Um, uh, I think because I can't walk that much, I'm thinking about going on more cruises. I want to go see the tulips in Amsterdam. So I want to do some bucket list things. I'm buying tickets to the Army Navy football game. So I'm not totally wrapped up in this because I do have a lot of confidence in my doctors and the care I'm getting. So I wish my breathing would be better, and I don't know what to do. I'm told that I should be eating leafier vegetables, some citrus, some beets, and I think that's where I need to focus on a little bit better than I am. So that's my update for what's going on with me.
That's a lot. I don't quite get why you're short of breath.
I'm anemic,
Oh, because
and
of anemia?
yes, uh,
Oh, oh,
yeah. So
How
I did
mu-
have a pill.
how anemic are you, Kevin?
Well, again, I mean my I'd have to look at my numbers. My what number do you need? Do you need? Am I at? What is it? The
either a
ALT or
hematocrit. No, either a hematocrit or a hemoglobin.
well, the hemoglobin I said was 47 today,
No,
and
that that's
That's
that's your platelet count.
oh, that
I
was the
think.
platelets. The hemoglobin was what was my hemoglobin? 8.7.
Okay.
that's low.
Yeah, it was 8.3 last week. I had a transfusion 2 weeks ago, 1 unit of blood when it was 8.3,
Hmm.
and then the transfusion I thought was going to be a lot more helpful than it was, and that night I couldn't even walk a New York City half a block. Um, Went from 8.3, and then the following week I came in because I asked Tagawa maybe I need another transfusion. He brought me in and he gave me he hydrated it. He hydrated me, and after the hydration, it was fantastic. It really I felt a lot more energy. The red blood cells, the white blood cells are um, well, the red blood cells are pretty low. I
Yeah.
did get a shot today of what was that?
Procrit.
Prolia.
Exactly, Procret. I got the Procret shot today. So, so that's where I stand. I think it's. Is there anything that anybody could advise me to help my breathing? Because that's
So
bothering me a lot.
Kevin, is the breathing mostly when you exercise or move, or is it all the time?
I can sit down and when I'm relaxing, it's fine. Once I start, I can't exercise. Well, once I start walking,
Right.
getting out of the car, going up to it was a humbling experience when I had to get in a wheelchair about a month or so ago. I couldn't make it up to the doctor's office.
Right.
So yes, when I start walking, that's when I can't breathe. But when I'm sitting down or in a relaxed state, lying down, I'm fine.
So my
Kevin,
sense,
are you on tamsulosin?
No.
Okay.
Why is that, Rick?
It has a side effect. It in some people it can impact your breathing pretty
Oh,
significantly, and
okay.
it's something a lot of the doctors aren't aware of, and we've had some success in getting people to talk with their docs, and then they'll come off it and their breathing will improve significantly.
Oh, good.
I guess, Kevin, my sense is it's related to the anemia. If sitting there, you're okay, but when you start needing oxygen, you're breathing hard. It's likely, John may have a better insight, or Julia, but it seems like anemia is going to be the real culprit here.
Oh, really? Yeah. So like I've had a stress test a month or two ago. I went to see a pulmonologist. Everything's good with my heart and with my lungs. It's just a matter of this, Tagawa says it's a combination of everything, the cancer, the could be even the treatment. So that's where that's at.
So,
When you say that's going to be the issue, the anemia, what exactly do you mean by that?
Well, you need blood. Hemoglobin carries oxygen
Right.
from your lungs through to your organs. And if you don't have enough of it, you can't get enough oxygen to support your functions. And so that's why you're breathing hard. I'm a little bit anemic these days, not as bad. I notice it when I'm climbing stairs.
When we've seen this before, the quickest and the easiest solution has been 1 or 2 units. And maybe 1 unit wasn't enough. And I'm
Yes.
really a little surprised that you didn't get a unit yesterday or today, or a couple of units.
At four, yeah.
So 8.7 is still not great. You're having you're symptomatic. So I wouldn't wait another week if you're that uncomfortable. I'd be pushing and saying, Doc, I want a unit, or maybe even 2 units.
Okay.
But don't say, put it that way. Don't say, do you think I should get a unit?
Right.
I'll say I would like a unit, because we've always seen it makes guys feel in your situation way, way better.
Yes. All right. That's good advice.
Advocate for yourself and see if you can get a couple of units. That'll make you feel much better. Are you on, what chemo is he giving you? Docetaxel or cabazitaxel?
Cabazitaxel with the other thing. It's
What other thing?
cabazitaxel
Carboplatin.
and carboplatin.
Okay,
Those
so the
two, cabazitaxel
carboplatin,
and
right?
that's what the carboplatin is going to. Pardon me.
Go ahead. Why is he giving you the carboplatin?
Beyond my scope.
Okay. Well, but you've got to ask him, Kevin. You've got to ask him. If you have a marker that suggests that you should get carboplatin, that's great. But if you don't have a marker and he's just doing it on a hunch, maybe you should drop the carboplatin right now, because the carboplatin is very tough.
Yes.
And come back to it. But we need to know, you need to know, why are you giving me carboplatin, Doc?
Okay. Very good advice.
What is it? When was the last time he sequenced your tumor?
Probably about a year and a half ago.
Okay, again, tumor needs to be sequenced. Something may have changed. You could be a candidate for pembrolizumab. And I hate to say it to you, but when you're in this situation, you got to act quickly. I talked to another guy who's like this just an hour ago, and you can't be messing around, and otherwise you won't be strong enough to get the treatment. And if he hasn't sequenced you in a year and a half, he may have done and you might not be aware of it, but if he hasn't done any genomic testing in a year and a half, the disease can change, and you're entitled to know whether you've got any mutations that might make you a good candidate for a different type of drug,
Rick, when you say sequencing, I've had a biopsy that they take and they study it, but the other sequencing, is it through saliva or something else, or?
No, he can the sort of sequencing we're talking about right now can either be through blood or it can be through a tissue biopsy.
Okay, I'll ask him
Frankly,
if he's done that.
frankly, in your situation right now, probably would be best to get blood because there is a measure that would be very helpful that we don't see unless you get the blood.
Okay.
Okay, but it's not exclusive. So even if you got the tissue, it would be okay. We could see if you were MSI high from your tissue. What we don't see is your tumor fragmentation and your tumor cell and but I suspect given what you've told us it's pretty high. So but either way, I mean, if he's got uh, you need a recent, there's no point in,
Right.
if it's tissue, don't send it from a year ago. He needs something very, very recent.
Sure. He might have done that. I don't know. You know,
Okay.
like today when I said to him, you know, I would like to have the product for um, the anemia. He says, you know, you've had it 3 times before, and I didn't realize that. Um, so I'll double check with him, you know, and I'll
Okay.
get back
And
to you.
just I just want to clarify something that was put in the chat window between the organizers. It's usual to follow up with cabazitaxel after you've had docetaxel. That's the standard. That's how
Yeah.
it was approved. That is the norm. So the reason that the cabazitaxel was chosen was because that is the protocol. Now there are some docs who, for whatever reason, will stick with docetaxel, and there are other docs who may give cabazitaxel first time around. I think maybe some guys even here have gotten that.
Yes.
It's not the protocol. But for you, you want to know why you're getting the carboplatin, because that doesn't help you with your neuropathy for sure.
Right.
And it's going to give you, it's probably going to exacerbate the
breathing.
the anemia.
Yes.
Now, have you noticed a difference since you started chemo? Have you gotten better, worse, or stayed the same?
With the anemia, with the
No,
breathing,
with your
I,
overall situation, everything.
I've gotten better. I definitely have gotten better
Okay.
since a month ago. And I
Okay.
must tell you, being hydrated helped me more than the 1 unit of blood, it seems,
Okay.
you know.
Okay.
And I
Wonderful.
did call up the National Institute of Cancer in Bethesda. I wanted to check with them if they had anything for me, any trials, which they do not. So, but the lines of communication are still open there.
Okay, but let me just
So,
tell you something. Tagawa is Dr. Trial. If there's a trial going on,
yeah, no, yeah,
he's going to tell you about a trial. Now the problem is, of course, he usually wants to push you into one of his trials,
of course,
and that's what the targeted chemo stuff is all about.
right.
But he should be telling you of any trial, and try and persevere. The other thing to talk to him about, maybe, could I get chemo at a lower level whilst my
That's what,
blood level
yeah,
is, you know,
that's what
could
he's
I
going to
drop the
decide.
carbo?
Yeah. We discussed
Drop,
that, Rick. That's exactly what we discussed today. So he's
right.
stretching it out to 4 weeks, or he's going to reduce it. And one of the reasons why I double check with Petrolac, because I like Tagawa, but I need to verify,
Okay.
so that's what I did. So
Okay. Dr. John,
Well,
does
I think it's really good that Kevin came back to group today.
well, I love that he came back, but Dr. John, I got to ask you, does Petrolac think he's God too?
You know,
yes,
I just talked to him uh, yesterday, as a matter of
Yeah.
fact.
Yeah.
And he sure is, he's very taciturn. It's very hard to get him to talk. He'll answer questions with one or two words. And it was funny yesterday. He basically started the session by saying, "Well, do you have any questions?" I felt like saying, "Well, usually the doc gives you their assessment and recommendations, and then asks you if you have any questions." He cut right to so he doesn't talk much, and whether that's because he thinks he's God, I'm not sure.
Ask him about his golf game and he'll get to talking.
Or ask him about his knee replacements, which he's really
Yes.
happy about.
Yeah.
I got that last time.
Hi,
All
John.
right.
I have a question.
Ooh, Dennis. Hi, Dennis.
Yeah, has anyone tried oxygen therapy for anemia?
Well, oxygen will help if a person isn't getting enough oxygen to their
Yeah.
tissues. It won't be anemia, of course, but it'll thoroughly saturate the red blood cells with
Right.
oxygen and probably make you feel better. And so, Kevin could do something like wear oxygen when he's walking. And
Okay.
I think it might help some, even though there's not enough hemoglobin on board.
Yeah, it would certainly help, but it's usually used for really chronic conditions. Right. I mean,
So if there's a chance his hemoglobin's going to climb in between chemo. Yep. Okay, I'm going to move on to Jim Barnes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was just going to butt in and said I had an additional question.
Okay,
for
perfect
Rick.
timing.
It is perfect timing. Actually, for Rick, we were talking about, or anybody else, we were just talking about sequencing. How often should you be doing sequencing, or should we have our doctor do sequencing? Is that a once a year, every couple of years thing, or?
I think a lot of it depends on how your cancer is progressing and how many times you've changed treatment over that period. I mean, if you're doing one treatment and then you switch to another treatment and then you switch to another treatment, and that's all in the course of, say, 9 months, it's probably worth getting sequenced again, because the cancer responds to the treatments, and that's when we see the possibility for a different mutation to arise. If you're in a pretty stable situation, we tend to think, and again, can't give you medical advice, but probably if you haven't been sequenced in a year and a half or so, it's worth doing it. But for example, in your case, Jim, after you finish up with your chemo, be worth getting sequenced again.
I suppose you could think
Good to know.
cancer
I
starts
didn't have any
behaving.
sense whatsoever of any time period in between, so it's really helpful. As far as my situation goes,
Hold on a second, Dr. John, you wanted to say something?
Well, I was going to say, I suppose if your cancer starts behaving differently, then that might make you suspect that there's been a mutation that's altered the cancer's behavior, and that might make you think of asking your doctor about sequencing.
Yeah. This is very strange. Dr. John has just disappeared off of my screen totally.
Yeah, mine too. I was wondering what's going on.
I don't know, but there's a voice. Oh, now he's back.
Well, you guys, all your pictures disappeared on me, and then came back again 10 seconds later.
You've got bandwidth issues.
Yeah, I think you're right. What else did you want to ask us about, Jim?
By the way, my screen looks totally normal tonight, like it does every week. No changes whatsoever. Just but so I'm in the middle of chemo. I've done my 10 days ago. I did my 6th chemo treatment, and so I'm slogging through that. my PSA has gone from, I'm in low ranges, so that's good. But it went from originally it was moving up from 3.8, and then I started the chemo and it moved all the way down to zero point 0.5, and then it was zero point 0.5 again, and now it's 0.6. So every time I'm getting a chemo treatment, I'm not seeing continuing to see the decrease, although that's pretty low. So and then I had bone scan done and a CT scan, and on the bone scan it came back and it said there was nothing new, no new metastasis, but compared to 5/13/2022 bone scan, mild increase of patient known right inferior pubic sclerotic metastatic lesion extending to the left acetabulum. So, I've got one tumor there that's growing a little bit, and that has me concerned. So, the doctor seems to be satisfied where I'm at 0.6, and thinks that it can go down further, and they're advocating for me to go through, the remainder of my prescribed docetaxel chemotherapy. I'll probably get 9 of those in before I go to Florida. But I'm just wondering why, in this situation, if we have slight growth in a tumor, um, why we wouldn't use SBRT or something to radiate it? And the answer that I get back is that, oh, you're endangering your white bloods in the bone marrow, where your white blood cell count in the bone marrow and that sort of thing. So I just wanted to see if that struck a chord with anybody. Should I be advocating for radiation for SBRT? Should I just continue to ride the chemotherapy to see for additional benefit down the road? And just wanted to bang it around to get any thoughts or experiences anybody had.
Okay. Go ahead. John?
Well, you can't radiate the bone and the femur without also radiating the marrow, and the marrow is extremely sensitive to radiation. So I guess I see what he means. It's a very large bone, and it's got a lot of marrow in it. Maybe if a person is already low on white or red blood cells, they are afraid to kill stem cells in the bone marrow of the femur, maybe especially if you're already low. I don't really know. I suppose that's what they're thinking. If there are other bones that make blood cells, so why they can't just say the rest of the body will keep up with it, I don't know. It must have to do with the size of the bone involved. Anybody else have any ideas?
What I'm curious about is I don't think I've ever heard of anybody getting radiation simultaneously with chemo, spot radiation simultaneously with chemo. Has anybody in this group ever gotten spot radiation during their chemotherapy? Any input from anybody on getting spot radiation with chemotherapy? Herb?
I don't have any thoughts.
Hey, Jim, it's Dennis. I apologize if you said this already. Where are your blood counts, your whites and your red and hemoglobin?
Oh, I would have to look that up, but I mean they seem reasonably satisfied with all my blood counts are pretty good.
They do it with other cancers. My cousin just finished up. She had vulvar cancer, and got radiation and chemo at the same time. But I mean, that's right to her pelvic area. It wasn't to a long bone. But
Mm, mm.
I
Don't
suppose
know.
So basically,
since the chemo has got a good chance of killing the metastasis, I suppose Rick's logic is why do both when you can do one, you know?
Well,
Right.
I mean, it's not so much a logic. I just don't. I honestly don't know. I mean, I would
It makes
say
sense. Makes sense.
that I'd give it time because the chemo is very systemic and it doesn't have immediate effects. And sometimes we see guys going through 4 or 5 lots of chemo and it doesn't, and nothing happens. And then all of a sudden things um, accelerate. So it's quite possible that this lesion a month from now could show different. Do you have any pain there, Jim?
I do not have pain that I have some pain in that area, but I'm not sure if that's the source of it or not.
Okay.
So,
Um,
but I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm glad you mentioned that, Rick. That's helpful to know that there might be benefits on my future chemo treatments.
Chemo is just so different with each person. Some people get rapid response immediately. Some people have to go through 2 or 3. And some people, we've seen it, have gone through 4 or 5 before they got PSA drops. So it really does change. So I would hang in. Do you have a second doc? Like, do you have like a petrolac in your hip pocket?
I'm not sure how to interpret that, but I'm really yeah, I don't think so. So no, I don't have a second doc except for my PCP.
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, it's good to have that second person there, just like Kevin was saying that he could go to Dr. Petrolac and just check on Tagawa through Petrolac. And so, it's I like to see more than one GU med onc on your team. I think it's always good so you can go and ask somebody else just in case.
I'm not sure
So,
there's. I've never heard of another GU Medonc other than the one that I have here in Pittsburgh. So
well, most often when people have a second one, they've got to go out of their comfort. They've got to go out of their geographical comfort zone to find one.
Do you have a
Unless
do you have a
go ahead.
radiation oncologist already?
yes, works very
That's,
closely with my GU oncologist.
yeah, that
There's a
doesn't
good.
work.
Oh.
But that's not a
Yeah,
good situation.
no, it doesn't work. When they work together closely, they never go again. They'll never give you an honest second opinion. They'll say, "Oh yeah, Dr. Leonard is he's
Right.
doing all the right thing." And Um, but it
Who's your
might
guy
be.
in Pittsburgh? I'm
I'm
sorry,
sorry. Did
Rick.
you just ask me a question?
Who's the guy in Pittsburgh?
Who's my doc in Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Leonard
Okay. Right. Okay.
Appleman.
How about
Right.
another GU Medoc down in Florida, Jim, when you go down there?
Yeah, that's a possibility. It's just when you call these offices, it's like, oh, we can get you in 6 months because it seems like they're overrun.
We,
Um,
in Florida, I mean, we can certainly help you out with Belucich if you wanted to do that. Are but you're West Coast, aren't you?
I am on. It's only 2 hours from Miami, so
Okay. Is that in one of those airboat things or is that by road? um, Yeah, I mean, Belucich is good down there, but it is good to establish to have another doc, so you can always bounce an idea off of them. That's just sort of a general observation.
I think that's a good idea. And I've heard several people here mention that they have a second doc. on the team.
Yeah. Plus, Jim, you're worried about the tumor that's growing, and you want to. It'd be good to get a second opinion so you can understand it a little bit better.
Oh, sure. Yes. Well, those two comments are really helpful, Rick.
Before I go on, I wanted to, Jerry, could you tell me again whether you wanted time tonight? I forgot to write it down. Jerry Pelfrey.
No, I don't need any time. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. Okay,
John, if I may just intervene, I do have a question for somebody who may not have asked for time, because I'm sitting here on tenterhooks waiting. Les, have we gotten your biopsy result, the pathology results back from the testicle? Do we know what they found?
Yes, they did find it was malignant, was from prostate cancer.
oh,
Good,
oh
good,
man.
good. And are they sending that tissue away for analysis?
I haven't checked into that yet.
Okay. So you might want to ask them to send it for analysis since it's very recent, and it might give you pointers. So when I say analysis I know that they like some and they don't like others, but they should it should not go to Guardant. It should go to either FMI or Caris or the one with a T in San Diego. I forget, but it's worth your while having that sent off just to see where you're at, Les.
Yeah, okay, what are we looking for?
We're looking to see if you have any unusual mutations that would point out a specific treatment if your cancer comes back.
Okay.
Now, isn't this the lesion that was negative on the scan? Les?
What scan?
Why was there such a confusion about whether this testicular tumor was prostate cancer or something else?
Well, it is so rare that nobody believed that it really was.
Oh, it was the location.
Yeah, they said
Not
that, well,
another
that doesn't
scan.
happen.
Okay.
It doesn't go to the testicles.
Yeah.
So they kept on checking it until people finally agreed, yep, that's what it is.
Yeah. Remember about a year ago, we had a guy with penile metastases.
Yes.
I bet
In
that's
Phoenix.
pretty rare too. Phoenix?
Yeah. But that's good news. I mean, it's good news we know what it is, but yeah, I definitely would have and did they come back? Did they say that it was an adenocarcinoma, Les?
Not that I know of. I don't recall that being said anyway.
Well, take a look at the biology of the pathology, because if it was not adenocarcinoma, if it was something else, then that's significant. You want it to be adenocarcinoma. That means it's driven by testosterone and it would respond to hormone therapy. So if it was something else, then it would be throwing up a red flag. So take a look or bring on your do you have a copy of the pathology report?
Yes.
Great. So take a good look at it. You can send it to one of us, to Herb or Len or John or me or Ben,
I think
and
I
we can
sent it
help
to Len. Len, didn't I send that to you?
I don't think so. I don't recall.
You sent us the report which had frozen sections, which was your intraoperative diagnosis, if I remember.
Okay. Well, if you have the final pathology report, just send it out to one of us,
Okay.
and we'll take a look and just make sure there's nothing untoward. And I would definitely be requesting Quan to get next generation sequencing on that from anybody except Guardant. You don't
Okay.
want it from Guardant. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Len, you're up.
Okay. By the way, I was just looking for an email from you, Les, in the last couple of months. I didn't come up with anything. But anyway, well, as Jimmy G likes to quote Rick Blaine from Casablanca, after hearing some of the problems of my brothers here, my problems don't amount to a hill of beans. But, just for the sake of keeping guys aware of what's happening with me, I started out in January of this year with a 0.02 PSA, and I went on a complete drug holiday, and it's been bouncing up a little bit over the past 10 months, and my latest was 0.07, so still very low, but obviously, they're back on the move, and Dr. O says, we'll wait till, I thought this was a bit early. He said, well, maybe we'll do a PSMA scan at 0.2. I think that's too soon. I may argue that with him when the time comes, but that's it from me.
It does allow me to hop in with an advocacy update around this around the PSMA scanning. So I've been in touch with Novartis, Lantheus, and Telix. And what we are trying to do at this point in time is to get the Society for Nuclear Medicine and Molecular Imaging, SNMMI, to consider a certification regarding the experience of the reader. Because as you know, in this group, we've had people reading these scans that aren't that experienced, and sometimes we don't even know. We had a situation with Mike Yancey, who's on the call right now, where they got a reading and Mike said, well, who read it? And his medical oncologist said, well, I don't know, because we sent it out to a service. So we want to make sure that these people in the service who's reading it in one of these reading services, this ain't the first one they've ever read. And fortunately, Telix, which is an Australian company that makes Illuccix, has just hired a global patient advocacy director, and she's got a huge amount of experience in neuroendocrine cancers, where they went through this themselves a few years ago, where they introduced new scanning methods for neuroendocrine cancers, and there was no experience, so she gets it. So I'm really hopeful that it may take a while, and it may not come into play for another 6 months or so, but I'm hopeful that we can do something. Now, at some point, it's going to be moot, because it's going to have been around long enough that everybody will have seen them. But if they have not, or if that doesn't happen, we want to be sure that you can get a reread. And we can pretty much get you rereads through Lantheus and Illuccix. AAA doesn't have anything in place, but if something occurs and you happen to have gotten a Locomets, I can lean on AAA, and we can get it. We'll find a way to get it reread. So I just wanted to give you that update, that we're kind of watching out for that, to give you the comfort that when you get a scan, people can interpret it properly.
Rick, I'd also like to give some feedback and thank all of the guys who helped me try to find a GU medical oncologist from down in Florida for some of my guys down there. There was someone in West Palm Beach. We didn't know who to refer him to, and I think it was Rick suggested I email Belusic, which I did, and amazingly, he doesn't even know me, but he responded later that same day and saying he's not aware of any GU medoncs in that area, but he said that University of Miami has a few GU medical oncologists that would do telehealth with people in that area. So if anybody, Jim Barnes, I'm thinking, right? I guess you're on the East Coast of Florida. So you can do a telehealth visit with Belusic or someone in his group at the University of Miami.
Jim Barnes, I think, is West Coast.
Oh, are you, Jim?
I am West Coast in Marco
Oh,
Island.
Where?
Marco Island.
Marco.
Yeah.
Does Marco still exist?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't get touched very hard at all.
Oh, good.
Yeah, the guy in that West Palm Beach area that is the guy that Paul Frieda sees, whose name I forget off the top. And Paul always says, the guy says he's a GU medonc. I just don't know.
I don't think he is.
Well, Paul's not on today, so we can't. So it doesn't allow him to defend the doc. So I wasn't going to go there, but I'll tell you what his name is. It's Abraham something or the other. I remember the first part of it. Abraham. He's been with him forever and ever.
Where is he located?
Somewhere in that Palm Beach area.
Yeah.
Schwartzberg. Abraham Schwartzberg. Jupiter Medical. Abraham Schwartzberg, Jupiter Medical.
Jim, even being in Marco, you're not that far from Miami, so you could still probably contact Belusic for a telehealth if you wanted to.
Sure. Does that start with a V as in Victor or B as in boy?
B as in boy, Bilusic. We can put it in the chat.
Yeah, we'll put a reference in the Herb. You can do that now. Do you want to put his link in the chat?
Yeah, who's Schwartzberg's or?
No, Belusic.
I can do that. But also, I'm just looking at Schwartzberg, and he says his cancer specialties are bladder, GU, melanoma, and prostate. And he used to be an instructor of medicine at Harvard and at Mass General. So that's pretty good evidence.
It is. They don't mention any other cancers? I thought I remember seeing a whole bunch of cancers.
No, it just says bladder, GU, melanoma, and prostate.
But that's pretty good.
So I would argue that this guy's probably competent.
Okay, well, he certainly Paul Frieda likes him.
So if we're looking at somebody on the West Coast, he's at Tampa General Hospital.
No. Schwartzberg is on the East Coast.
Oh, Jupiter.
Schwartzberg.
Yeah. It doesn't actually say where he is.
He's
chief of oncology he's chief of oncology at Tampa General Hospital.
Sure, it's the same Schwartzberg.
Well, see, I'm looking at Abraham Schwartzberg. There aren't going to be too many of them. I'll put the link in the chat window, and you can look them up too.
Okay, but if you could just put the link in the chat window
for Belusic, we'll do that too.
Really more, yeah, that'd be great.
There's Schwartzberg first, then I'm going to do Belusic.
Okay, Len, well, let us know if that PSA moves.
Yes, sir, I will.
David, you're up.
Thank you, John. It's a good timing. I've been experiencing some pretty extreme fatigue during the day. It starts at around 11 o'clock and probably goes till 6, 7 o'clock, and just really dragging my ass. And I just remember talking, and I'm on monotherapy darolutamide, and I remember Len saying he was on the same thing. He actually came down on a dosage, and then he's obviously now he's taking a holiday, and I'm wondering if I'm not experiencing the same thing that Len did.
Yeah, even more so than me, David, was Peter, if you recall. I mean, we were a little skeptical of Peter's claims because he was saying as soon as he put the pill in his mouth, he had, enormous fatigue. So it's got to be a little bit of what's the opposite of nocebo, right? That's an actual medical term, nocebo. But anyway, yeah, maybe, I mean, obviously, we're beginning to wonder if after being on Darrow for a while, it seems to have some sort of cumulative fatigue effect.
Yeah, I have to look. I think I've been on it since February or March, if I'm not mistaken.
It's the newest of these androgen receptor blockers, and we know less about it than the others. So,
Yeah.
we could get more data on this. Right now, there's very little data, but so there's you, there's Peter, there's me. We're all experienced. We all started off great with Darrow. We loved it, and then as time went on, it started to feel a bit fatigued.
And when did the fatigue hit you, Len?
Oh, I was on it for over 2 years.
Over 2 years. I haven't been on it that long.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think I'll give Shmulewitz a call and maybe cut the dosage in half and see if I feel better. I don't know if I'll
Yeah.
come back as quick as Peter came back. He came back like instantly, but
Yeah, he did the
I don't know.
next day.
Yeah, it could be that. It's also I'm also tapering down from 5 milligrams of prednisone, and I've been tapering slowly, and I wonder that could have an effect also. Or it's one of those two
If
things.
you're doing it slowly, it shouldn't be bad.
Yeah, very slowly. I'm coming down off the prednisone, but I know one of the side effects for tapering prednisone is fatigue. So
And
when
why
it
were
gets,
you taking prednisone?
I was taking prednisone because I had chronic hives.
Oh,
They were
okay.
terrible. I was up to 60 milligrams, and I've come down, and my allergist just kept me on 5 for a while, and I'm just want to get off the prednisone. So I was on 5 milligrams for quite some time, probably 6 months.
Were you taking Orgovix?
Nope,
Yeah.
nope, just Dara right now. So that's kind of what's going on with me. I'll keep you guys in the loop. And my back is much better, by the way.
Good.
Back is much better. I ended up getting a cortisone shot, and I found a really good PT. And I'm working my back, and I figured out why I'm having the issue, and I'm doing much, much, much better. So that's all I have, boys.
Share with us why you're having the issue.
Why I'm having the issue. Oh, the back. So
Yeah.
I didn't realize it, but I was waking up most mornings with a sore lower back, and it would finally loosen up, and I just wouldn't pay attention to it. And my middle back is like ultra, ultra, ultra tight. And she's telling me because the middle back is so tight, and she sees this a lot with triathletes, that it puts all the pressure on the lower back. So she's working on loosening up my upper back, and I'm doing a lot of exercises to bring that disc back in for my lower back, but she says it's because it's because my middle back was so tight.
How are you getting along with the tamoxifen?
I'm getting along fine. I have no, thank you for remembering that. But I've seen no side effects. I load up my pills every week and I even forget that I'm on it, but I'm doing fine. My breasts are not as tender as they were. I don't think they've come down in size at all, but I'm just rolling with the tamoxifen for now.
Well, I want to make a suggestion to
Yes,
review
sir.
with Shmulewitz or somebody, that I'm wondering if the tamoxifen together with the darolutamide could be causing this extreme fatigue.
Okay.
Because they're both blockers, except one blocks estrogen and one blocks testosterone.
Yep.
And has there been any correlation in the increase in your fatigue since you started taking the tamoxifen?
Well, I started taking the tamoxifen and I was at 10 milligrams. And then I wasn't doing much, and I increased the tamoxifen to 20 milligrams about 3 weeks ago. And I wonder if that might be having an effect.
Well, the reason I say it, Mr. M, is because the women hate tamoxifen. They hate Lupron because some of them get Lupron, and they hate tamoxifen because it does all kinds of things to them, and they complain about it, including fatigue. And I would strongly suggest that you talk to your man, Russell, Dr. Russell, and see if maybe we need to do some juggling between the tamoxifen and the darolutamide.
Okay.
What do you say, Dr. John?
Well, sure, makes sense. The first thing to always look at is whether the doctors are causing the symptom. So, and that's settled, then you can see whether it's coming from you.
Yeah. Good point. All right. So
Um,
you're suggesting to talk to Russell Shmulewitz.
yeah, and I doubt that there'll be an interaction between tamoxifen and darolutamide, but somebody might want to check. I don't know where those websites are. Len probably knows where to go on that one. But you might check and just see if there's any interaction between tamoxifen and darolutamide. It'll probably have in big red letters, "This causes huge fatigue."
Rick, this is Gary. I just checked. It didn't show anything.
Okay,
It
great.
doesn't mean
Thank you.
there's not something more subtle, but it didn't show anything.
Great. But yeah, okay. Well, check with Dr. S and let us know.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Gaushan, did you want to talk with us tonight about anything?
Good evening.
Hi,
How are you?
good. How have you been doing? And would you like to
And
tell us about anything?
Well, I'm still proceeding. I have one more Eligard injection coming up in December, and then I will completed my time on Eligard using 22.5. And I mentioned in an email to Rick that, and part of this discussion happened earlier in the meeting today, that my PSA in Panama, they measure 3 digits at 0.00. And in the US, when I was in the US in middle of September, it was less than 0.02, which is the lowest that they register. But I decided, since the Medicare situation is coming up, and even though I have Medicare A, B, and I also have a Plan G with a company called USAA, which all the Eligard shots except for the first one before I had Medicare, I'm not paying any money with both Medicare and Plan G. But I decided that I would go and look at some of the drugs that we've been discussing over the last year, and what if I signed up for a drug plan. Because I spend less than 30 days in the US, I don't need to sign up for a drug plan. So I went to check to see various drugs like Nubeca and Zatiga and a bunch of other stuff, and the prices were crazy. They were like $5,000, $6,000, $8,000 a month. So I sent an email to Rick, and he gave me some insight, kind of like what was being discussed in the earlier webinar. But I'm hoping that in the near future, certainly next year, that my PSA will stay low and all of that. But you never know, that I may need to use a second androgen. But the prices were insane.
Yeah.
Orgovix was like $1,600 a month, but Nubeca was the most expensive, and it was one place was $6,700, and one place was $8,000 a month. And I'm not a veteran, so that I was in ROTC, but I never became a veteran, so that's not an option either. So I just need to investigate more into it, and certainly Dr. Vuki, my GU Medoc in Portland at OHSU, may have something a little bit further down the line, but hoping that I can delay that as long as possible. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I don't need to do anything, but I decided I would investigate it, and I was unfortunately surprised.
Yeah, yeah. Alan, what's up with you today?
Talking to me?
Yeah, you came in late, so I didn't get to ask you ahead of time if you wanted to speak or not. Do you have anything going on?
I'm investigating that stuff Rick told me about last week. It's got me pretty confused, just because I don't read the medical stuff all that well. But I think I have decided that I'm going to contact Gainesman and just say, listen, I know that people do their own research, might be, frustrating for you, and I respect you, but I need to know why you're saying 6 months when I'm reading everything that says 18 months to 3 years on the hormone therapy. And just say, I just need your explanation. I'm going to do what he tells me, but I just can't sit back and not get an explanation. Only 10 days left of radiation therapy, and I'm starting to experience the muscle fatigue and the stamina. I went climbing this weekend. It was clear that I wasn't climbing as well as I have in the past. I mean, I still could do some, but so, that's where I am. I still have to do a lot more of that reading of those articles that Rick told me about, and see if I can get a better understanding before I get a hold of Gainesman.
Good. You're going to go in with a lot of knowledge then.
Yeah, yes, and I don't see him till December, so I'll have plenty of time to digest it. And my retirement date is December 22nd.
Congratulations. Hey.
So I want to hand out some kudos here. The fact that you are going through what you're going through, you've been on the radiation, and you still managed to do any type of climbing at the weekend is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. I mean, I when I went through my radiation, I tried to exercise every day, either at the rowing club or walking. There were days if I just made myself go out and walk for 20 minutes towards that back end. It was tough. It was really tough. And, climbing, boy, I mean, it uses those muscles. So don't beat yourself up because you're at the end of radiation. And that's what I would say. Anybody else have any comments on that? Anybody else feel like climbing with this man in the middle of radiation next weekend?
No. Up a cliff? No.
But it was rather humorous.
felt
I would do a climb and I'd come down and I couldn't even belay. I just have to lay down and recover. I mean, but then I recovered and I did the next climb.
There you go. Fantastic. How's your incontinence been this past week? Any better, any worse, or the same?
It's just not there. It's just the same. I used the clamp during the day because I can't be running to the bathroom. Use the clamp, but then out right here at night I have a mega pad on. I don't have any control at all, and I just really hoping, still doing Kegels. I hope it comes back, because this sucks. But you know what,
Dr. John, can
if it doesn't come back, I'll deal with it. Oh, and somebody last week told me about the artificial sphincter, so I know I have other treatments potential.
Yeah. There's a couple of people on this call that know about artificial sphincters, right, Dr. John?
Yeah, if you ever get to the point where you're actually considering it, talk to me or Jimmy.
Will do.
Okay. So it looks like we're towards the end, which doesn't often happen to us, but this is what happens when we don't have new people. So can I take 3 minutes to repeat a funny story, Dr. John? May I?
Not if it's that joke you told me earlier today.
Yeah, I was going to tell that joke. These guys would appreciate it. Don't you think these guys would appreciate it? So let me tell you the background on this joke. A buddy of mine sent it to me this week. This is a very old joke. Some of you may have heard it, but he sent me a video clip of Walter Matthau telling this joke to Johnny Carson with Jack Lemmon sitting by his side, and Matthau started out by saying that one of the guys who works in security, when he walked into the studio, told him the joke, but he's going to have to clean it up a little bit. So since a lot of people listen to this, we may have to clean it up a little bit. But the story is about 3 older men who wouldn't go amiss attending this group, discussing their bodily functions as old men like to do, about how they pee, how they empty their bowels, and all of that. And the first guy gets up, he says, he says, 15 years ago, he says, I could go stand over that bowl and I could pee like a horse. He said it would come out. He said, boy, he said, like the Mississippi. Unbelievable. He said, now, he says, I get there, I strain, I pee, I got to stop, I strain again. He said, it drives me nuts. The fellow says, you think you got troubles, the second guy. He says, I have the same thing, he says, with my bowel movements now. He says, it drives me crazy. He says, I'm on there. And he said, sometimes I got to strain. Sometimes I don't have to strain. He said, it can come out like Mount St. Helens. He said, there can be nothing there. He said, it makes me nuts. The third guy says, he says, I don't have any problems. He says, I wake up in the morning. He says, I pee like a monsoon, just comes flowing out, just like that. He says, I can nod off back. He said, I can nod off back. And a few moments later, he says, I have a major bowel movement. So the other 2 guys look at him and they say, so what are you complaining about? He says, well, I don't get out of bed till 9 o'clock.
Let me just add to my update too. I stopped my fleet enemas.
Oh, good.
Still
Oh,
not
yeah.
having, still, my bowels are still empty when I go in for the radiation. They look good. So thank you. Whoever told me to stop them, somebody last week, said, I don't think that's a great idea. So really pleased. I hated them. So I was really glad to
Yeah.
stop them.
Good. Good.
Hey,
Good. Good.
Dane,
Good.
Dane, did you have anything you wanted to say today? I didn't get to ask you before you came in.
Yeah, I'm looking for some information about the TP53 mutation.
So what would you like to know?
Well, okay, so I got my DNA results back, and apparently that's one of them that came back as mutated. And I've done some research, but the research I'm looking at is still kind of new, and I wanted to kind of get to hear from some people that maybe have more knowledge behind it.
So Dane, so tell me, which DNA test did you get back for P53?
They did a comprehensive DNA test. So they went through everything.
Is this on the
Go ahead.
tumor?
Yes.
Okay. So
I'm assuming this
P53 is
area.
perhaps P53 has been called the guardian of the genome. And that's because it's supposed to shut down cell division whenever a cell gets insulted. And so it happens that it's the most frequent mutation in prostate cancer. Virtually more than half of prostate cancers have a P53 mutation. So the consequence of that is that insults that would normally shut down the cell are less effective. That doesn't mean they're not effective. It means they're generally less effective. So it may take a higher dose of radiation to kill a tumor cell with a P53 mutation, but it still does. It may take a little higher dose of chemotherapy, but they still work. It is not one of the ones that are absolutely providing resistance to therapy. It just means that it's less effective. And so in general, there are no targeted therapies for P53. My idea would be take a mutant P53 and go in and knock it out, or express a wild type P53 in a cancer cell, and then maybe it'll behave more like a normal cell. And when those experiments are done, the cell just spits it right out. So they've been very unsuccessful in trying to deal with P53 at the molecular level. So what more would you like to know?
Well, that's a good starting point.
Herb, how about to define insult, please?
Well, an insult would mean like a chemotherapeutic drug or radiation that causes DNA damage, or any insult like that. I mean, this is the kind of insult. It's supposed to respond to DNA damage by shutting down the cell. It activates a whole series of signal transduction molecules. And so that's what chemotherapy and radiation and most of the drugs that we use do, is they cause DNA damage. So Dane,
Go ahead.
I'm waiting for your question.
Yeah, no, I'd read up, I was reading, one of the things they're saying is that you should get less radiation because they're afraid of it actually causing more cancer. But then I read somewhere else where they said that you had to be more aggressive, or they thought you should be more aggressive for treatment. So that kind of threw me. I mean, how do you define aggressiveness if you're kind of taking away like radiation?
Well, I
That's
think
why the
it's all,
first line
I mean,
defense.
that's a clinical decision. But as I said,
that mutation makes it less sensitive to radiation. So in other words, if 10 gray, and I'm just picking a number out of the hat, would kill the cancer, a wild type cancer, a normal, if you didn't have the mutation, it might take 15 gray if you have a P53 mutation.
Well, I know. Yeah, Herb, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm listening.
Yeah, this is Joel. What I know about TP53 it comes from Alicia Morgan and Anton Arakis. And because I have both TP53 and P10. Now, there's supposedly 3 very aggressive cancer genes. They're RB1, TP53, and P10. And I have 2 of them. Anton Arakis says if you had the RB1, I would really be sad for you because I couldn't really fix you. I couldn't really treat you very well. So the RB1 is by far the worst. But TP53 and P10 supposedly are more aggressive. And Herb is correct, is that there's everything they've tried so far, both on the TP53 and actually the P10 in clinical trials has not worked. That's all I know.
Well, P10 is a more, there have been successes in terms of the P10 PI3 kinase system, Joel, at least in the lab. But P53 has been a bust. And I've had dinner with all the people who discovered P53. David Lane in England. Arnie Levine and I have been on seminars together. So Dane, the idea is if it is not the worst mutation you could have.
Okay. Yeah, there's a couple other in there that don't affect prostate cancer. Just kind of get this big warning sign that to watch out for other ones. So.
And then Mark Markowski just published a paper, which I don't really believe, but he published it, that BAT works better in people with a P53 mutation.
And there you go.
So it may be that having the loss of that checkpoint makes BAT more effective. It didn't make sense to me just because the prevalence of the P53 mutation is so high in prostate cancer.
But it also exists in other cancers too.
Oh, for sure.
I was talking to Bryce Olson earlier on today, and I'm just checking to see if he has TP53. He doesn't. He has PI3K and P10. At least
Right.
that's what I see right
right. He's got those mutations.
But he got 8 months. He got 8 months out of BAT, which he was very happy with. But unfortunately, he's now seeing some liver mets. So hopefully he'll come into the group when he gets the results of the sequencing on the liver mets. And I've suggested that he look into some liver ablation strategies. So, but Dane, yeah, I mean, I have to tell you, I've never come across anybody adjust or any RO who's adjusted a radiation dose for TP53 that I'm aware of, I should say. But I'm sure they may have done, but you can when if radiation comes into play, you can set it up. What were the other mutations that
Oh, yeah, I have to go back and look through it. But I'm actually right now 7 more treatments away from finishing up my radiation. So I've already gone down that road. So.
Okay. So, I mean, I ask you about that because I'm just curious because there are things like the Lynch syndrome mutations
Right. Well,
are
but
loosely related to prostate cancer, but they can be there. I was just wondering if it was something like that.
Yeah, if you want, I can. I don't have the report right in front of me, but I can actually go look those up here in the next half an hour and send them off sometime this week if you want to look at them.
Yeah, just ship them over to me, and we'll talk.
Okay.
We're doing great here on time, John. Anybody? Oh, did anyone else have any questions on TP53?
Well, the only person I haven't asked about speaking is Rich. Hi, Rich. Do you want to speak with us tonight? Are you there, Rich? There he is.
No. Yes.
he
He
was
unmuted.
unmuted.
He was unmuted and then muted again. Hi, Rich. Okay.
Is it all quiet on the Eastern Front? You're unmuted, Mr. Jackson, but we can't hear you.
Talking about the
Nothing this
Eastern.
evening, thank you.
Oh, here, there
Okay.
you go. Okay.
Talking
I
about
could.
the Eastern Front, by the way, today it was 74 degrees here on November
Unbelievable.
1st.
Yeah. Up in
Yeah,
Connecticut,
Herb,
also very warm.
Herb, blame climate change. We got to fix that problem.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like it.
Guess what? The protesters were nowhere in sight.
Yeah.
No, they were wearing their shorts and flip flops.
We'll just take a couple of minutes to just talk to you a little bit about something I put in the reminder. This the enormous cost that this poor fellow paid for his Lupron, with nobody guiding him, which was probably frustrating. Well, it's certainly frustrating to me, because if we could have gotten to him, in the worst case, we could have sent him down to Panama and he could have gotten the shot for $800. In the meantime, his insurance company pockets the difference, because I doubt that any provider is paying AbbVie much more than about $800 for their for the drugs. But it's just a big issue, not only with respect to Lupron. I mean, the fact is that the drug prices are negotiated between the payers and the providers, and the drug companies, and the patient doesn't come into it at all. And what the sticker price, which is what we all see, which is that huge price, and which is what they use to calculate our copays, doesn't bear any relevance to what the money that's changing hands. And there's something wrong with that picture. It's an awful big nut to chew off right now. And I don't know whether we can do anything about it, but maybe if we can get Kaiser Health News to dig more into it, we'll get somewhere. It's too big an issue for little Ancan to take on.
Rick,
Yeah.
I've got an answer for that. Mark Cuban's cost plus pharmacy.org, I believe. The Zytiga, or the generic abiraterone acetate, I'm paying the $800 a month. Thank God I've got a grant for the Zytiga, my part of it. But Mark Cuban has come out with this pharmacy company and he's somehow associated with Costco. My price for for 1 month of 3 tablets of Zytiga, because I only take 750, is $112, and well, it's almost $113 a month for my Zytiga. Now, the only problem is you have to, you make the order for it, and you have to pay for it, and then you send the receipt to your drug, whatever program you've got, and then they reimburse you. So you do have to use your money, but go look it up. All you have to do is go to Cost Plus Drugs and on the internet, and you can read all about it. He doesn't have a full complement of drugs yet, but he does have some other drugs like my venlafaxine, and since it's not a real expensive drug anyway, you don't get as much of a discount, but I still save at least $3 or $4 a month for like venlafaxine, and I can't tell you what other drugs. I think those are the only 2 that I've got. He's got several drugs on there, and he's adding more. So I'll just stop right there. Go to Google it and.
Okay. Well, that's really helpful. Thanks, Jerry. Jerry, do they mail the drugs to you in Mexico?
No, I don't know if he would or not. I didn't do that. I've got them mailed to my post office box.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
And he says to do it about 2 weeks in advance to give him enough time to mail it.
Okay. All right. If there's no questions, I just want to check in with Vic. We haven't seen Vic for ages. What's going on, Vic? You didn't ask for time. How are you doing there in St. Louis? What's going on, man?
Everything's steady on. Undetectable PSA, still with
Yes.
Eligard and Zytiga. I finished up my docetaxel back in the end of October of last year, and been in with I started the Eligard before the docetaxel, and right after I finished the docetaxel, added in the Zytiga, and so far so good. Just trying to keep abreast of what things are going on, and just keep myself aware so that if when things change on me, I a little bit better informed and have a clear idea of what the options might be. Also, I do have a question. Anybody heard if Medicare's picking up Pluvicto yet? Or
Oh yeah, Pluvicto is Medicare approved.
okay.
It's Medicare approved. It's been Medicare approved since March, if my memory serves me right. But you have to have done. You're in good shape. You have to have done chemo and 1 second-line anti-androgen. So, as and when you would be right in line. And I have a question for you. Did you ever get next generation sequencing? Did you ever get your tumor sequenced?
I have not got that done yet. No, I have not. I think probably around the time I see progression, that's when I'm going to, make sure that I get that
Okay.
report. And
Okay.
that's the plan at the moment, anyway.
Okay, well, that's covered by Medicare, and you can get it more than once. So it doesn't
Good.
hurt you to get it. You
Yeah,
can get
well,
it
if I can,
now, and you can get it a year from now.
yeah, well, I can talk to my urologist and see where the tissue samples are from the prostate biopsy, and see if we can
Well,
get those. Unless I've got mainly bone mets. I don't have any soft tissue mets, so I've heard that pulling a bone met for biopsy is not great. Are they doing the liquid biopsy covering that
Well,
too with Medicare? Do you know?
I do know, and there's just a new article on that, and you probably are not going to show much of a result from a liquid biopsy. But getting a bone met, I mean, we've got guys on here who will give you firsthand experience about a bone biopsy, and I don't think it's as intimidating as it sounds, but I haven't had one, so I would have to I think Len, you got one, didn't you?
Yeah, I did at the NIH, and yeah, it wasn't bad at all, Vic. It was all over in about 20 minutes, and they may shake your body a bit when they're hammering through your bone, but you don't feel much. And it's a pretty good way to find out what your tumor mutations are. I want to ask you though, you're on, you said Zytiga and Eligard?
Yeah, that
And
is
how
correct.
in the
Yeah.
world are you able to maintain such luxurious beard growth? I mean, I'm struggling here with this little thing, and I'm not on anything for 9 months now.
I haven't shaved since the pandemic started, so I should have a beard like ZZ Top right now. But this is what I got. I got a lot of curl post chemo, so yeah. And I've had my testosterone checked. It's way down there. It's below 20, I know for sure. And
yeah, I'm sure.
And yeah, did have another question too. Thinking about here. Oh yeah, so I guess I'm not so worried about the procedure. I just want to make sure that wherever I have it done, they know what they're doing to grab a good sample. And I don't know if that really makes a difference or not where you have it done.
I'm sure it does.
I mean, I think if you went to Siteman, you'd be fine.
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't want to go to the local community hospital, but I think if you go to a facility like Siteman, that's an NCI hospital, you're going to be just fine.
Okay.
They have
all right.
they would have the interventional radiologists, and really, that's what you need a current sample. I wouldn't be sending. You don't want to be sending a prostate sample. You need something much more recent.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Yeah. Well, thanks for the updates on all that. I know there was another question, but it escaped my mind.
That's okay. Do you now my question to you just escaped my mind. I was going to ask you something about yes, scanning. So have you had any scans since you've come off of all this treatment compared to where you were before?
I've had some x-rays, but no CTs or no PSMA scans or anything like that. I know I'm going to get right now planning to get a bone density scan probably in July. And and I guess they're talking right now about as long as the PSA is low, that the likelihood of CTs showing or additional growth is pretty thin, so that's kind of what they're going with. But I don't know, I may get another CT scan when I get the bone density.
We like to recommend a CT scan every year to compare, because something, if you get something weird going on, and you just will miss it, and oh, here she is
Good evening.
our favorite lady. I told the guys when the colonel shows up, everybody else has to leave.
Oh no, don't make the guys go. Like the guys.
So I'm just going to introduce you. I'm going to introduce you before we all go. So
okay.
We don't have Susan's name in there yet.
Well, you know what? I'm using a different computer, so it's making me put my name on. Hold
but we
on.
love Susan LaHaye. Susan LaHaye is our care partner, our lead care partner moderator, and she's in here today to lead the care partner group, which is just about to go. So if any of you have care partners that want to come in, they can come right into this room.
Here I am.
And then we have another lady who I know quite well. Actually, you will know her because she was she's Linda Geringer's cousin. And some of you remember Steve, who we lost earlier this year. And so Linda's in here too. All right, guys. Well, you're welcome to stay for the care partner if you're looking after somebody. But we don't allow it if you're looking after yourself. That doesn't count. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording right now.
Nice seeing everybody. Good night,
Bye.
guys.